Hey, Sin, what do you think baby gay means?
A newbie lesbian or rookie.
Newbie or rookie lesbian? Okay, let's see if you're right. Whether you're listening for the first time or already a part of our community, I'm your host JJ, and this is another episode of Unstrapped The Podcast. Today's episode features a guest of the podcast. Our word of the day is baby gay. Our topic of the day is parenting while mask. So let's unstrap, sit back, let's get into it. A little bit about our guest today. Sin found their way onto our show via TikTok. I hope y'all are paying attention to the pattern. We're excited to see someone with Caribbean roots represent themselves in their community. In Sin's case, they're representing Guyana, straight from Minnesota. So, Sin, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? First, what do you identify as?
Yeah, well, I'll go on JJ. I identify as lesbian.
Okay. What are your preferred pronouns if you have any?
Yeah, I go by she, her. Um, Pretty standard with that.
All right. And can you tell our listeners where they can follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on TikTok at one, that's the number one, Sin City one. So one CYNCITY and then the number one. And then Instagram too as well. Sin City 701. That's CYNCITY 701.
Awesome. Awesome. And last question, but most important question on the show. Let our listeners know, are you team strapped or unstrapped?
I would have to say both, strapped or unstrapped. I get the job done and I haven't had any complaints.
Okay. I love that. I love that for you. Hey, listeners, hopefully you've been tuning in this whole time. And if you haven't, right now we're in the beginning of our podcast, the introduction or the word of the day. As you know, the word of the day today is baby gay. And here's the definition I found. It says someone who is newly out or new to lesbian culture. So it sounds like you hit it right on the head, Sin, but what are your experiences when it comes to this term baby gay?
I feel like we obviously have all been there at some point. We've all are freshly out of the closet, experiencing this new lesbian community, and we're never really given like a handbook of the terms, how you're supposed to act, all that sort of thing. So I feel like with baby gay, it's now, I think now with TikTok and social media, it's kind of taken it to a whole other level. You're now seeing, different versions of studs that are studs, but also still interested in the male side of things, and which is cool. No judgment. Everyone has their own preferences, but definitely, a baby stud is someone who hasn't had much experience. So they're still discovering what they like, what they don't like, and some even are probably even discovering how they want to be presented, how they want to present themselves, whether they be, a stud, a female presenting feminine woman, or trans, whatever the case may be. So to me, that's what a newbie gay
I
is.
think we're very much aligned. When I think of baby gay, I think about I want to say like my first 2 or 3 years out the closet, and I think about how it finally felt like I was becoming a teenager for the first time. Like I feel like going through middle school and high school, I remember watching people go through different phases of like dating and crushes. And I feel like having only coming out the closet at 18, I had a delayed experience. And so in my baby gay phase, I feel like I was wilding out in weird ways for no reason, whether it was like dating or flirting or doing this too much. Things that people who know me now would be like, nah, you weren't doing all that. But like people who've known me for a minute, and I know they listen to this podcast. So people who've known me before I turned 18, they knew who I was when I was wilding out. But I think I'm a better person today. I'm engaged, so that's a step.
Yeah, that's what's up. Congratulations too. But yeah, I feel like it's almost like you're going through puberty again. It's like you're a 13-year-old boy who is now discovering like different parts of the female body, having that certain sense of, what you're into.
Especially,
so, yeah, it's definitely all about self-discovery.
especially for the Masc community, because so many of us just look like little boys the minute we like are in our full form, right? Like I definitely look like a young adult now, but like when I first came out, I definitely look like a little boy, and it is what it is. It just comes with the culture.
For sure. Yeah, you got to go through it to get to where you need to be, right?
But yeah, let's keep this conversation going. Right now, we're about to jump into our segment called Temperature Check. Um, this is when me and the guest get to really chop it up and talk about what's top of mind for us right now. So, Sin, what's been happening in your life? Tell us what's up.
Yeah. So, I feel like for everyone, April and maybe this early few months of the year have been kind of rough. To me, I've been kind of going through a lot of changes, just more internally with myself. I've been doing a lot of self reflection, just trying to find peace and, healing, and not even just healing on my own, but healing in love too as well. I've just recently got back into therapy. Before I did therapy for like a year,
Love it.
discovered it was cool, but just wasn't the best for me. And then I think I just needed to be ready. And, now that I'm finally ready, I'm actively in therapy. And honestly, it's the best decision I ever made in my life. I highly advocate for therapy. And I feel like for those who are single, still trying to find the right person, I feel like that's one of your questions you need to ask is, have you gone through therapy? And if not, do you plan to do
That's
therapy? Because I feel like
crazy.
everyone needs a little therapy
That's
in
like
their
the
life.
first
And
question I
I
ever
feel
got
like
from
you're
my
lying to
fiance.
yourself.
That's crazy. That's literally question one, and I was like,
That's what's
all
up.
right, this is the one right here.
So your fiance is smart because yeah, I feel like everyone needs a little bit of therapy, and if you're lying to yourself if you say you do not, and if you say you do not, you definitely need to spend some time self-reflecting because even if you don't feel like you've had a rough background or had a rough upbringing, we're all not perfect. So I feel like you definitely need to grow and change, and I think therapy allows a great outlet to do so. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, just rediscovering myself, rediscovering my faith, and not even just like like faith. I wouldn't say in terms of religion, just more of faith, spirituality, and just like my higher self, my higher purpose, kind of rediscovering myself. Like I said, yeah.
That's dope. How many therapists have you gone through? And that sounds crazy out loud as a sentence, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, and that's a great question because I feel like not every therapist is right for everyone. I definitely think you have to try out a few therapists and find the right match for you. I think in total, I've gone through three therapists. This would be my third one. The first one was very much reliant on medication, which wasn't for me. The second one, she was a dope lady. She was from New York too, as well. She was actually from Flushing.
Okay.
And her and I related really well to each other, but we just kind of just when stopped going to therapy, we kind of just stopped really communicating. And my third therapist that I'm seeing right now, she's awesome. We relate to a lot of the same topics. So definitely I recommend if you are going to do therapy, you don't feel bad if you don't like the first one right away. Definitely it's one of those things you got to keep going and trying out different therapists. And a lot of people too as well don't expect you to commit to them right away. So definitely give it a trial run.
That's big facts. I definitely have gone through triple that, but that's because every time I change jobs, I end up in a situation where I have to change therapists, and also like I don't know, as you go through your journey, your standard becomes higher, and it's almost like dating. Like you meet enough people, you understand like what you want out of people, what you don't want, and it's the same thing for therapists. But when you do find a great therapist, like keep them, do everything you can to stay with them. But most importantly, learn everything you can in the time that you have with them. Because most people don't end up having therapists for like years and years and years. And if that's the case, you're lucky, right? But that's not the case for everybody. So, get the tools that you need to keep living your best life when you're with a therapist. But yeah, no, thank you for coming on here and definitely be another advocate for therapy. I think people need therapy. Plus, therapy isn't going to be the solution for
Yeah.
everything, but it's definitely
Oh
a
yeah.
good tool to have in your pocket.
Oh no, for sure. And you definitely have to put in the work. Like you can't just go to therapy and be like, yeah, I saw a therapist. You actually had to actively do the work, do the projects they have you do. Like it takes a lot. So it's not just as easy as it sounds, but it's definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah. Top of mind for me right now is I'm just really in my bag at work. This is just going to be like a corporate like pat on the back for myself. I feel that as someone who manages, depression in their own ways, in healthy ways, sometimes I have whole weeks that I'm at work, but I also feel like I'm not there at the same time, and it's just because I'm focused on whatever. It could be on one thing, it could be on many things, and in those ruts, I feel not as productive. And believe it or not, like I'm not saying I'm someone who loves to work. No one loves to work. I love to travel. I love to get drunk at a summer bar in a hot weather Caribbean country, right? That's what I love to do. But if I'm going to be at work, there are things about work that I do love. And I love being productive and I love being able to help people to the best of my ability, but I simply can't do that when I'm not in a good space. And so, because of therapy, I've learned how to manage that. You know what I mean? Like when I realize, hey, I'm not having a great day or week because I'm clearly like focused on something. I'll do things like, for example, meditate. Sounds cliche, but I used something called Headspace. I don't know if you're familiar with the app. If you aren't, it's a app that you can pay for to um, teach you how to meditate, and it's the only one that's actually worked for me. Fun fact, you can get access to Headspace content on Netflix. Like they have their own channel. So you don't even have to pay for the app, right? I hope they don't sue me. But like it's awesome, right? And so like I'll do that. Or maybe I'll maybe several times in the same week go out with friends, right? Like maybe I shouldn't be going out on a Tuesday, but I'm gonna do it because I know that's what I need. And I'm only saying that to say that like um, you know, I'm definitely not perfect. I'm definitely going through different types of journeys. One of those being with my mental health, and I'm actively trying to figure out, what are the better ways to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. So, have a happy and productive future. And hopefully it never gets to the point, which happens for other people who are probably listening, where maybe your mental health impacts you in such a negative way that you simply can't uh, do what you got to do at work. You simply can't take care of yourself, in which case, don't be afraid to like lean on others. I know who I need to lean on in my community, but don't be afraid to lean on others, even if they're not a therapist, but do so in healthy ways.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely kudos for you to realizing that you needed to take a mental health break and just kind of focus on grounding yourself because, yeah, you can't do the best job that you can do if you're not mentally ready for it.
Big facts, big facts. But yeah, like I said, today it just happens to be not one of those days. Today is like a great productive day, and I'm just like really happy that I got through it. I still might treat myself. I might, who knows? Maybe after the recording, I still might go outside. I'm one of those New Yorkers, like I stay outside. But we'll see.
You got to.
Oh yeah, I have to. I have to. It's nice outside. Um, but yeah, just mental health and managing it. That's top of mind for me. Um, out of curiosity, when you started your therapy journey, was it based on a suggestion from someone else, or was it something that you're like, hey, I want to try this, and that's what got you into it?
Yeah, so I really started therapy when I was 18, just going through my own things that I really needed to work on, just things from my childhood that I would recognize like, hey, I can't move forward in my life without really handling these issues. So I went through therapy. And then, kind of around the same time, a few years ago, I was like, I'm still not feeling myself. I'm still not feeling, at my peak where I know I could be. And like I said, there's a lot of things going on in my life, things changing constantly, where I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I can only talk to my family members and my cousins and my best friend so much. And I can only tell them the same thing so much. I need to find a therapist because for one, I love and protect my family. I don't want their mental health or anything with them being affected. And so I realized, you know what? I need to actually see a therapist, someone who is a professional, who can provide a different insight, who can provide a different lens to as well and have different thoughts. Cause people around you are like they're biased. Like there's no other way to put it. They're biased. So if you want, fresh ears, a different insight of life, you got to talk to a therapist. So that's kind of what made me want to do it.
I appreciate you sharing that. For me, I feel like I got into therapy in a almost in a toxic way. I feel like I only wanted to seek therapy because I realized I was leaning way too heavily on my best friend at the time, just like always ranting and raving. And it never dawned on me that like that's not healthy for either party. And so it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, there are people that we pay for to rant and rave, and it's totally okay. So I guess that's consent, if you will. So let's try it out. And but I'm glad. I'm glad it's something I've tried out and it works for me. It sounds like it's working for you, and I hope it's something someone that is listening, tries out like dating, and you continue to date and you find the right person, and you find healthy ways of just going through life. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and it's like I think you mentioned too as well that you went through therapy through different jobs that you may have
Mm-hmm.
had before, and I don't think a lot of people know that you can go through your job to find a therapist even at sometimes at a discounted rate or even for free. And there are options out there. Like I personally go through BetterHelp, which I discovered on TikTok. And they're pretty affordable. They have financial plans too as well. So it's not like you're gonna break the bank to speak to someone, to speak to a therapist. So there are plenty of options out
Let's
there.
go. Sin putting people on.
Yeah, I got to. I gotta help my people out because I know how it is to be down in the dirt. I don't want anyone. I don't wish that upon my worst enemy.
Facts. But let's let the listeners get to know you in a different light. What goes on your social media page, right? Like you open up your phone, what are you scrolling through? And just FYI, if you're listening for the first time,
Yeah.
this is our doom scrolling section where we just chop it up about like what we find interesting on social media or the news. But yeah, Sin, what's on your page?
Yeah, so I am new to the whole TikTok thing. I'm just now recently getting on it and just being really active on my page. And I'm starting to see a lot more people, a lot of more studs particularly, speak out more about expressing their wants, like their needs, their desires, and realizing, hey, like I am an equal to my partner. I am an equal to my feminine partner too, as well. I'm also a queen. I also deserve to have love. I also deserve to have respect. I also deserve to be taken care of. Because I feel like a lot of, um, and I'm not going to say a lot, I would say some relationships and some situations, the studs are kind of tend to have to play that man role. And I say in quotes, man role, the one to, financially provide, the one who has to kind of take, I don't want to say cater to their women, but in some ways do cater to the women, kind of what their woman says goes. And it's really hard to sometimes have an opinion when you're in those situations. So I've been seeing a lot more studs realize like, hey, my voice does matter. My opinion does matter. My feelings do matter. And I think I'm happy to see a lot of studs now vocalizing it in general too, as well on TikTok and kind of allowing TikTok does allow a great outlet for all of us studs to kind of get together and realize like, hey, we're worth more than that. If you're not, happy, if you're not getting what you deserve, what you truly deserve, it's okay to move on. I saw this trend recently where they were saying, you're someone's dream girl, move on. Well, I saw a stud do it and saying, hey, you're someone's dream stud, move
Right.
on. Like you're worth so much more. And I think TikTok has definitely provided a great outlet for the community to kind of express and be like, hey, you're not alone. It's okay to feel like this. Um, and it definitely provides a lot of confidence too as well.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, if you are listening, whether you're a stud, a butch, a dyke, no label, not even queer, you are someone's dream, right? Like, don't you forget that.
Yeah.
And honestly, in this world, you might be multiple people, but that's up for you to debate. I'm glad you brought that up. I do feel that studs fall into the same toxic spiral that men do, and I'm not. Let's be clear. And studs are different. Studs are not trying to be men. We might look like little boys, but we're not trying to be men. But there are things that we go through that are very much alike. And I hope one day on this podcast I get the opportunity to actually interview a heterosexual man and have a serious conversation about that. Like, and one of the things that we have in common is like when we're dating people or we're married to people, sometimes, not all the time, we get put into a position of um caretaker or nurturer or I don't know, but like it's our responsibility to take care of you physically, right? I'm not getting into no fights with anyone. I guess I'm team soft stud, but like I'm not gonna fight nobody for nobody. Like if you get into a fight, that is your fight and your fight alone. Let me know if you need the cops or you need bail money, but like that's not for me. It's also not for me to also take care of you financially, right? Like I can hold down, my girl, right? I have a fiance, I can hold her down, she can hold me down. Um, but it's not my role, at least not my preferred role, to be like, I'm gonna work really, really hard all day, every day, and then give up some or all of my finances to someone else. It's not my vibe, and I know it's not the vibe for a lot of people, but sometimes we get caught up in it, and maybe it's love, maybe it's lust, whatever. We just stay in it. We just stay in it. Like we see the signs, we see the flags, but we're like, nah. I think the younger generation refers to a lot of their partners as fine shit. fine shit, looking extra fine today. You know what? You can take 80% of my check. Not my vibe, but it's a thing that people go through, and I know men go through the same thing. I think the solution to this is when you're dating someone, ask if they're going to therapy. First question: are they going to therapy, and what their opinions on therapy is? I think number two is, what role do you want to play in this relationship? Hands down, a tough conversation, but a conversation that needs to be had so people do not waste their damn time doing too much for someone else, staying in a relationship for all the wrong reasons. Everyone has the ability to be happy, everyone has the right to be happy, and you can control your happiness to an extent, right? And this is one way of doing it. Yeah, I think those are the top two questions. If I get a full list, we'll make a whole episode on it. But for now, I think these two questions will set you on the right path. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely for one, everything out of everything, you definitely need to prioritize your mental health, and asking those questions will do so. Asking if that person has been through therapy is definitely number one. And number two, yeah, what are your gender roles? What do you expect out of a relationship? And just kind of piggybacking off of that, I think social media plays a huge part of it, because now, females are saying, oh, you have to have a man to provide to you for you financially. Like, don't get me wrong, protect your girl. You should, at the end of the day, roles or not, you should be protecting your partner, but also too as well, your partner is your partner. You guys are equals. It's not one above the other. You guys are equal. It's an equal playing field. So I think definitely having those conversations early on in your relationship can save you a lot of heartache, save you a lot of fights, save you a lot of struggles, and just in all create peace and happiness within each other. So yeah.
See, that sounds about right. See, Sin definitely is like the poster child for like, I go to therapy. I'm really about that life, right? You can always tell. You can tell
Oddly,
when talking to someone who's in therapy and sometimes really, really, they're at peace.
I I would be the poster child. I have no problem playing that role of being the poster child for the gay community, for the Caribbean community, for the therapy community. I'm all about it, because I've definitely at firsthand have experienced and have seen the shift, not only like in other people around me, but even myself just doing those things. So
And speaking of people who might need therapy, have you seen the show Hoochie Daddies?
I have not, no.
So if you're listening, Hoochie Daddies is a show on Tubi, Tubi, which is free TV, if you will, where masked lesbians, insert all the other labels. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. Are from what it looks like are in an Airbnb and are asked to do the most odd challenges in the world, like who can put on better makeup or like who can plank the longest. Um, with the goal of like winning a trip to Jamaica, and getting a Hoochie Daddies chain. It's definitely hashtag trash reality TV, but it's that good trash, right? Because when you watch it, it's funny as hell. It's at minimum funny as hell, um, educational in weird ways. Um, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I'm one of those people that like I am hyper aware of the communities I represent, right? And I name a lot of them on this podcast, and some I keep to myself. But the point is, here on Unstrapped the Podcast, I want to make sure that the mass community is represented in whatever like they want to represent themselves in. But at first, at least the priority is to at least do it in a positive way. Hoochie Daddies being the polar opposite of this, because we go through tons of episodes of like watching these people do very odd things. And at one time, do you get to know the individuals on the show? At no point do the challenges even make a lot of sense. Like I said, like one of the challenges is like, who can make a nice designer shirt, and they're using like pencils and pens from like the dollar store, and they're outside like playing around with white t-shirts, and I'm like, really? Um, I know you haven't gotten a chance to watch it, but like, what are your initial thoughts? And
Well, for one, Tubi is crazy. Like, if you haven't seen Tubi before, the movies on there go crazy. There are some good movies out there, and there are some like funny trash movies. I'm definitely gonna have to check out the show after hearing about this. But honestly, to me, like the fact that they don't dive into each participant's background story, or even just to get a little bit sense of who they are as an individual outside of being studs, just kind of makes me think that maybe they are in some ways just making fun of us
Hmm.
or trying to find us as entertainment. So I don't know too much to really judge based off of what I'm hearing, but what I am hearing, it just sounds like a big old entertainment show. I would love to see a different change to that. So maybe see in the future, kind of the same concept of studs in a house together, maybe competing for something, but also still diving into who they are as a person. Because we are studs, we are mask presenting, but underneath all the baggy clothes and underneath all the hats, we're still like females. We still are individuals who have our own souls, our own journeys too as well. So definitely something I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, definitely worth the watch. So if you are listening, I'm saying definitely tune in because at the end of the day, like we, if you fall under this category, are being represented, and that's a start. I am like you, Sin, where it's like there's a way that we could probably modify the show where like, hey, at least of every episode, maybe we get to meet one or two people on a deeper level. I would appreciate the show a little bit more. Because we don't have a lot of representation out there. And because we don't have a lot of representation, we're highly misunderstood, which is the basis of me even doing this podcast. And so, I would love to see that change. And who knows, maybe I might blow up big enough to like pull a hoochie daddy onto the show. That would be entertaining. That will be entertaining as hell for me. To know what
No, you will.
look, if I do, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna be like, hey, Sid, we might need to
You
we might need to
will.
team up on this one. But
I'm a manifester for you right now. You are gonna get a hoochie daddy on the show, and we're gonna replay this back for them, and maybe even create a new show with them in the future.
who knows? Who knows? I
Yeah.
appreciate the good energy and positive vibes. But yeah, I would have loved to know what it felt like being on that show on the opposite end, and then also like, was there anything positive from their perspective that came from the show? Maybe it just might be, hey, they got more bros, right? And that is more than enough, right? You have a whole bunch of friends who are all like, content creators and they look like you and they sound like you and you guys go through the same experiences. That might be the highlight of the show, but I promise you, if you watch at least season 1, because I haven't seen season 2 yet, that is definitely missed. So yeah, would love to meet a hoochie daddy, but for now I will continue watching and trying really hard to find the deep, deep, deep take back from this show. But for now,
Real deep.
it's funny as hell. It's just funny as hell, and I can't wait to keep watching more of that content.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But I am so excited because now that we've kind of gotten through doom scrolling, we're about to get into my favorite part of the show, which is Aight So Boom. And once again, if you haven't tuned in yet and it's your first time listening to us, Aight So Boom is an opportunity for the guest and maybe the host to share a story based on the main topic. And we've decided that the main topic is parenting while masked, which actually just sounds cool out loud in my head. But, you know, Sin is going to kind of go into a story and, we're going to learn a little bit about them through their story. And then if there's still time, I'm going to jump in and share something myself. How does that sound, Sin?
Yeah, that sounds dope. All right, so parenting while mask. I think I don't know if I can really speak for the newbies or for the baby gays out there, but I feel like once you do sort of discover yourself, you tend to meet different people, set preferences, set standards in your life, and sometimes there is someone who comes around that you didn't expect that you end up falling in love with, and then turns out that they actually have children. So you end up not only having to now form a love and bond with your partner, but also those children too as well. Definitely coming from like the Caribbean background and experiencing this same situation before in my past. That conversation was not easy to have with my Caribbean family, with my Caribbean parents. It came with a lot of questions, a lot of questions that I didn't know the answers to. But at the end of the day, none of it mattered because I'll be the one laying down next to my partner at night, not them. And not even just questions too as well on my side. There's questions on the other person's side of like, oh, so you are with a female now. What about the kids? What are the kids gonna think? And ultimately I feel like as long as you have a genuine conversation with your children and they can see how happy you are with this new person. That's really all that matters. Definitely having to fill that role now as a parent, and especially being a stud. You're not only having to fill like that mom role, in quotes mom role, but also too as well as sometimes in some situations you have to fill the dad role. And even though you're not, you know, anatomy wise a male, you're still having to do manly things to, you know, teach these kids on how to be better adults. Especially if you're having, like, if there's boys in the picture, then you're having to maybe teach them how to, you know, basic things like take care of themselves hygiene wise, how to cut their hair, how to, you know, do yard work, just like little basic things. And same thing too, as well as like playing like the mom role. You're still also having to kind of some ways nurture them, provide for them, cook for them, do that sort of things. And I think that can kind of be a little tricky because you're not also wanting to overstep and cross any boundaries, because at the end of the day, they do still, in some situations, they do still have their biological mother and their biological father. So I feel like as long as you are having an open conversation with the kids, and this varies based off of age, you know, and everything like that. But I feel like as long as you're having an open and honest conversation with the kids, kids at the end of the day, they just want happiness. They want to see their parents at peace. And I feel like as long as you're providing that to them, kids are more open-minded than adults. So it in some situations it could be very easy. In some situations it could not. Um, you know, one thing too as well with children, they obviously go to school and they see their friends, and their friends have parents who are, you know, obviously a mom and a dad, and then they're having to explain, you know, I have two moms, you know, but they both still love me the same. One is my birth mom, one, you know, just came into the picture, but they both still love me the same. And you know, them having to explain that at school as well can be a little bit challenging. Just a little story that I have, kind of with that is, a few years ago, you know, when my kids, they came home and was like, hey, you know, this kid at school was bullying me, saying, you know, my mom's lesbian and was making fun of me. And to me, like I had mentioned earlier, I'm very big on protecting my own. And so to me, those kids are my own. So I was heated. I stopped what I was doing, and the kid who was actually bullying, you know, my children at the time, they actually lived in the same apartment complex as me. So I ended up, you know, going down to the hallway, knocking on the door, speaking to the parents. I was like, listen, we need to have a conversation because this is not okay. I actually pulled the parent aside along with the kid, spoke to them both respectively, and was like, hey, listen, I don't appreciate you talking to my children the way that you do. You called their mother lesbian. Well, you have a lesbian sitting right in front of you. Like, do you want to say something out of my face? Because I was heated, like I said,
You
but
were about
I
it.
didn't
You were about
respectfully.
it.
And I was about it because I don't play about my kids. I wasn't playing about all that. You know, like I said, I'm very big on protecting my own. So I was very heated, but I had a um, very teachable uh, lesson with the kids. And they understood where I was moving from going forward. And, you know, we haven't had any problems since. And at the end of the day, you know, the kids still respect me, and even the bully too as well. He completely stopped, and now when I see him, he's like, "Hey, what's up?" Like we're cool. And I think, like I said, at the end of the day, as long as you're having open and honest conversation with children, they are completely down to learn. They are flexible. They're very open minded. But like I said, it's never easy dealing with someone who has kids, and I definitely say it's not for the weak, because you're not only, like I said, having to, you know, learn to love not your just your partner, but also kids too as well. And having to understand, you know, that at the end of the day, they're gonna be the main priority. At the end of the day, what they need, what they want, that matters more. So you very much have to be confident in yourself, and very much, like I said, very strong, because it's not for the weak. There's gonna be times where you plan dates and it doesn't work out. There's gonna be times when you plan some alone time, but you know the kids are wanting to hang out too as well. So um, it can have its moments. It's challenging. It is challenging sometimes, but like I said, open conversation is really all that matters. Um, and then, you know, unfortunately, there are situations where even if you do that, sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes you're having to um, hear, unfortunately, some people I've personally have heard them say, like, you're not my parent, you're not my dad, you're not my mom. And when I hear people tell me the stories like that, I'm like, I feel it, because when you do so many things and you don't get the same appreciation as you would be if you were their biological mom, it can sting sometimes. So I feel like I said, as long as you have open conversations and open communication with children, they are very teachable.
I definitely appreciate how much love and thought you put into being put into these roles. Because it's multiple roles, not just a single role. And also just acknowledging that, like, it's usually not the kid or the child that is usually like the most difficult part of this. It's navigating everything around it. And, I love that you did highlight that experience, that pain or feeling of, you know, being in a parental space, but also not being acknowledged by maybe the other parent, the kid, or both, right? Like that's not a great feeling. And it's something that, there might be someone listening to this understands very deeply. And there's no one quick way to navigate that. It's feelings. You just got to navigate them in the most healthy ways you can. And also just be okay with the fact that this is an experience that you're going through. I think that's the first thing that I like to do when it comes to managing feelings in general, which is like, yep, I'm feeling this. Like I'm pissed off, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm depressed. Just hey, just feel your feelings, but then also like find a healthy way to like manage it. Even if it means like communicating with that person. In this case, a kid, but like in a different way, right? That's definitely something you got to manage. In a very gentle way, I believe.
Yeah, and that's why that's kind of also too as well why I've always advocated for therapy, because at the end of the day, this is the first time you're living your life, and this is the first time these kids are living their life. So you're not going to get it down perfect. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to get it right away. So it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of understanding um, to fill that parent role. And some situations, some kids have both parents. In some situations, some kids only have one parent. So it's really it changes per situation, and there's no right or wrong way to parent. But I think as long as you have open communication and um, you're open with the children and with your partner too as well, you can make any situation work.
Right. I agree. I agree. But I'm about to sound like your opposite really quick because we're about to go into my baby gay phase. So Aight So Boom. When I was really, really young, I had to have been, I couldn't have been older than 19. I was on the dating apps. I was on this one app specifically called Badu. It was BADOO, right? And I met someone who I don't know if people still do this, but when I say we spoke for a very, very long time before we actually met up in reality, which is funny because I live out in Queens, New York. They also happen to live in Queens at the time, and I was shocked that we just never bumped into each other. But anyway, point is, I got to meet this chick in person, and we just hit it off, right? And it was after talking for it had to been months, right? Talking on the phone, texting nonstop. Like I'm not even doing my work. I'm just talking to them. It was one of those like really early, like really lovey-dovey kind of situations. And I'm thinking I know a lot about her because I spent the time literally to get to know her. So we finally meet up and everything's good. And like we end up getting in a relationship immediately. Stereotypical lesbian shit, right? Like minute we meet, we're instantly in a relationship. So why didn't Shorty tell me she had kids? So
Yo.
the crazy part isn't that she didn't tell me she had kids. It's the situation that she was in that she didn't consider a situation. So here's the situation. So we're dating, and I want to say it's a few weeks into dating. Something happens that requires her to get her kids. I don't know if we were out on a date or we were just hanging out or something. And something happened with her kids. And she had her mom or her sister watching her kids every time we went out. And so something happened that required her to reveal she had kids, which was awkward, right? Like we dealt with the situation, we had to drop what we were doing and like go to her kids. This is how I found out she has kids, right? She has two little girls, like toddlers. And so, of course, like after the situation dies down, right? Because I'm not hot headed. Situation dies down. I'm like, hey, we gotta have this serious conversation about like where these kids came from. And I also could have sworn you told me, like, understand this is baby gay day. So I'm like, I'm not associating lesbians with people who have kids. So like there was a lot to unpack there. I'm like, whoa, I thought you were gay. Like, are you not? Like, what's happening here? And she told me that, when she was in high school, she had a high school sweetheart that was a man that she was dating. And they were together for so long that they had planned their entire life together and had planned to have kids because she really wanted to have kids. But she also knew that she didn't really love him in that sense. She knew that this was just like more like a strong friendship, but she also had a lot of pressure herself. She was Haitian. She had a lot of pressure on her Haitian side to live a certain life, a religious life, a very stereotypical, normal, heterosexual life. And so she ended up having kids with this guy. Um, and so that was just another thing to unpack, right? Because I didn't know about the kids, one, so there's two. And then how I find out was just like terrible. Then I found out, she has kids by someone she was with for a long time. This is how weird that situation was. So now we're having conversations, right? She's like, well, now that you know what's gonna happen next. Are you gonna step up and take care of them? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I'm like 19. I'm like, I'm making a smidge over like minimum wage. I think I was making like 80 an hour. What do you mean taking care of kids? And we're having serious conversations. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I guess I have to step up, right? Because I really want to be in a relationship with her. I still love her regardless of me finding out this information. And so I told her, hey, like I just have questions and as long as we're aligned, like shouldn't be a big deal, right? Shouldn't be a big deal, Sin. But it gets bigger because next thing you know, and I'm really trying to make this story sound really short, but next thing you know, as I'm asking questions and trying to learn more about the family dynamics, I'm like, is old boy still in your life? And she's like, yeah, well, that's my baby daddy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, so does he know that I'm going to be around these kids and that you want me to be another parent for them? And she's like, oh, we can all sit down and have that conversation. She's like, but it has to be a much larger conversation. And I'm like, of course, in depth. But then I realized we were not talking about the same thing because then what she reveals next blows my mind, which is, my girls have a mom, a dad, and another mom. And I'm like, the fuck? What are you talking about? So the only other person, Masc lesbian, that she was dating after him, legally adopted these girls. And I'm like, what the ever loving fuck?
And she told you none of this.
Told me, and I promise
Not
you,
one
we
thing.
talked for a long time, Sin. I'm just so embarrassed by the situation. I'm afraid to even double check what the timeline was before we even met up, before we got together. And she's like, yeah, well, like, that's mom, I'm mom, that's dad. And I'm like, so I was going to be what exactly? This sounds crazier than that show with like the Mormon wives, okay? And I'm sitting here like,
You about to be mom number 3. Like,
how does that work? Actually, it kind of doesn't. I think that is just like, I'm a very open-minded person, Sin, right? But this, I think, just went right past my threshold of fuckery, right? And so
yeah.
I had a moment, mind you, I'm 19. I don't think my isn't it that time when your brain isn't fully developed or your skull is still like forming?
Yeah, not
And
at all. Not at all developed.
I'm having serious conversations with someone about kids that I don't even have a bond with because they're babies, right? They can barely say my name, they can't even say her name. And I'm about to make this life altering decision. And I remember like it's the only relationship to date that I've gone through where I was so happy that this turned out and blew up the way it did. Like this turned into like the nastiest of fights at some point when the other mother found out about me and found out that I was going to take over the kids and she didn't approve, but the baby daddy approved. And I'm like, why the F am I in this situation? So, we had a blow up fight and I think it was a series of fights. And eventually, we parted ways and somehow it was my fault. But, you know, you know, I'm glad I wasn't in a situation first and foremost where I ended up bonding with those children because that would have been terrible experience for the kids. right? Like, I get she made her decisions and it was based on her life situation, right? Like, sure, you started off with baby daddy, fine. Now you have a baby mother, and for whatever reason, you thought it would make sense for her to adopt your kids. Fine. But here you're now talking to a 19-year-old. Mind you, she was like a year or two older than me about adopting your kids for the second time. Like, I need you to get your life together before you involve more people in your kids' lives. I think that's fair.
Yes. Yes. And I think the fact that not only did she hide the kids, but hide the fact that there's a whole other mother, that's a huge red flag. Because the first half of hiding the kids, I've totally been there, and I understand some females don't want you to judge them based off of them having kids, because everyone's situation is different. You don't know how those kids were conceived or what the
Right.
situation was. So I get wanting to have your partner get to know you first as a human before bringing in the kids. Totally get that. But having to hide the fact that you've done this again before in the past, and they have another mother too as well, that's pretty diabolical. So you are totally right, and in so many ways to feel happy that did not work out, because you were not in a better situation and you don't have to worry about all that drama. It sounds like that would have been.
Sin, you could not tell me at that time in my life that I was not dating an actual villain from like I don't know, from like a Disney movie or
dude.
something. Like
No, Shorty was trying to write your villain story, bro. She was trying to write your villain story.
that relationship alone should have scarred the crap out of me. But it's because I was already somewhat grounded even at the age of 19 that I was able to navigate it a certain way. I'm not saying it was perfect. Like I said, that blow up was nasty. Boy, I was never ever so happy in my life, still to this day, to have. I'm like, oh, we're arguing, cool. We're about to break up, cool, because I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a mom. I'm not even trying to have kids right now. I'm trying to be outside, but then also like I'm not trying to be a mom. I'm not trying to be mom number 3. I'm not trying to be mom number 3.
Yeah. Yes. Like you said, 19 is not at all an age where you're ready to settle down and have kids. I mean, kudos to those who do have kids at 19 are doing great. That's awesome. But basically being asked to be a step parent at 19 when you haven't even fully discovered your own self and you're still a child yourself, like that's crazy to me.
That's a big fact. I'm also will never be ready, even at the humble age of 32. But I am glad that I was able to get through it unscathed for the most part. But hey, like, I just want to thank you again for jumping on the show. It's been great speaking with you. Hopefully we actually get you on for another round for season 2.
I'll be totally down.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's
Definitely
do it.
someone I can converse with all the time. And also let me know if you're in NYC, or I'll let you know next time I pull up to Minnesota. Meet up at Minnehaha Falls.
You ain't never pulling up to Minnesota.
Oh, I definitely will. I got some
pulling
people.
up to Minnesota.
I got some people out there. Shout out to my folk.
right.
I got some people out there now. I know some of the spots.
Okay.
I know some of the spots. But thank you so much for being an incredible guest. And yeah, thank you so much to the listeners for tuning in. I actually do know there are several of y'all, if not a lot of y'all, from here in New York City to California to Japan, apparently, tuning in all the time. So whether you're part of the strapped or unstrapped community, the queer family, or an ally, I'm so grateful you're here. We have so many more people to meet, stories to share, and journeys to take together. I'm excited you're a part of it. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, follow us on social media at Unstrapped The Podcast. Drop me a DM, request to be a guest, drop a question, show some love, or just say hi. If you want to hear a question or some advice that you want featured in a future episode during our Lost and Found segment, just let me know. And in case you forgot, this is a friendly reminder. We're going to be dropping our episodes every 2 weeks on a Monday. Until next time, unstrap, sit back, and stay connected. We'll speak again soon. We appreciate you.